Hey everyone, I just wanted to make a quick video about PLY Simplify version 1.2, try and help visualize what it is and what it can do for you. It does need to be done in versions 3.6 and later, as long as they are maintaining this import option of the Stanford PLY Experimental. This experimental version is what is bringing in that color. This won't work in any versions of Blender 3.5 and before, so this only works in 3.6 and beyond. So the first thing we need to be doing is we need to be appending the easiest way to bring this geometry nodes in is to just append the plane object from the PLY Simplify file that you get through Blender Market. It's just a plane with a bunch of vertice points on it, but it brings in all of our shaders and it brings in the geometry node setup. The next thing we can do is we can go ahead and use this experimental version to import something. Let's go ahead and bring in this scan of this car that I'm using to help demonstrate. So, if you can see, Blender has brought in a bunch of vertices. If I pull up these statistics, you can see it's brought in 4.6 million points from this point cloud scan. A lot of information, but there is nothing to actually see. If we go into material view, there's no colors. If we go into render view, there's no colors. None of that color information is being used. It's being imported, but you can't visualize it. So what I've done is I've built PLY Simplify so we can kind of see that color, but also so we can manage how much information is being displayed on the fly. So PLY Simplify is based on Blender's just intuitive use of point clouds, meaning that if you want to edit it, you still can go into edit mode and select all of these vertices. You just may see there's a little bit of lag when you're doing certain selections or when you get your vertice count in that point cloud really, really high. So this is not meant to be a fix for every situation, just meant as a cheaper alternative to visualize your point cloud color data and to help manage what's visualized on screen at any given moment. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to put on our geometry nodes, PLY Simplify. It'll take a minute to process. Initially, it's going to knock down how many are being shown because it's now placing instances and it's merging some of those points to make it a little bit faster on the computer. If you look, the merge distance right here is already set to 10. If we zero that out, it brings them back. Sorry, I was in material view. Let me change back to solid. It brings back every single point that was in the scan. Blender, when it's placing points, it's instancing to keep it snappy and fast. But it's also just instancing nonsense, this diamond shape that's not really doing anything. Blender's not considering it real geometry. It's just their solution for how they want to visualize a large amount of points across the system. However, again, that doesn't show any color data. So let's go over all these options up here to kind of help you visualize what's going on and how to use this. Merge distance, you can change it as many times as you want. It is changing on the fly. If you change it to 15 and then change it back to 0, it'll bring all that information back. It never is getting rid of any of that information. It is just changing what is visible on screen. That's helpful because for my use cases, I've been dealing with point clouds that have 30 million points, and I've been dealing with 25 of them at the same time, and that can get pretty convoluted, and there's a lot on screen, and I don't necessarily want to see all of it at once. I don't necessarily need to see all of it at once, so I can come in here and I can actually change this merge distance to get rid of some of that information. Now, the render all points basically is just a toggle that you can click. Right now, it doesn't really have any point to be used right now because right now nothing is going to render in Blender. It's kind of more of an option when we get to colorized and these level of details. But in short, render all points just means that regardless of what you have merged in the viewport, if you toggle it, it's going to render everything. If you leave it off, it will only render what is being currently shown in the viewport. So the point size is the next option. If we kick that up to 1.5, you can see it's going to make all these points a little bit bigger. That's going to apply to our colorized version later on as well. Just helps us, kind of fill some of the voids that are brought in. If you make it too small, it's hard to see. So that's 0.1. Can't really see anything. So we can make it a little bit bigger to fill in some of those gaps. Let's do 1.25. These level of details only have to really, they only really function when we turn on our colorized toggle. Now this colorized toggle, it is no longer using Blender's native instance shape. It is actually instancing a pyramid to each and every place on this point cloud. We're in solid mode, but if we go to material, we can now see that all of this color data is finally being brought in, and it is being sampled and simplified down to each one of those points. If I bring this back down to say 1, all that color data that was there initially is going to be applied. As you can see, all those pyramids are pretty big right now, so let's go ahead and shrink those down to 0.25. And we'll be able to visualize that color data a little bit more. You can almost see that it says Michelin. You can take that down any further if you need to. You can bring it back up if you need to. It's really up to you to visualize what you need on screen. Level of detail just refers to what is being instanced to each point. The pyramid right now is the smallest or least vertice object that you can place, or the object with the least amount of vertices that you can place at each point. If you change it up to level of detail 2, it's going to add in a diamond shape at each one of those vertices. Actual geometry, and level of detail 3 is going to be turning on, it's kind of like a sphere. It's a smoothed, low poly sphere to each one of those. If you turn off any of the higher ones, it doesn't matter. It's always going to override with the highest level of detail you have selected, so keep that in mind. I like to keep it a level of detail 1 because it's not really important what shape is there. It might be important for you when you render. For me, it's not. I'm just using it as reference to help model things based on point cloud scans. Now, the other thing that we have on this, there are different materials that you can apply to this. This positional shader, it's not going to change in the window because it's not using this material to use it. It is using the material system here. If I get rid of that vertex color and I add in positional, what it's going to do is it's going to make blue the lowest and red the highest. You can also get rid of that and change it to a tangent shader, which is just kind of a normal, helps visualize the normals of whatever you bring in. Really is kind of up to you. Vertex colors just uses the color data that the experimental PLY import brings in with it. So if you do want to do editing, keep in mind again that even though it is simplified, if you want to edit the point cloud and remove things, you can. You just have to come into the edit mode, and you still will have to deal with all 4 million of those vertices that were initially present when you brought it in. So if you were dealing with a high poly point cloud, it's still going to be very difficult to kind of manually adjust every point inside that point cloud. But that's not what PLY Simplify is necessarily targeted at. It's just to help bring in that color so you can help use your point cloud scans while you're modeling or arranging inside a 3D space. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me at any of the documentation on the Blender Market site. I'll be happy to answer whatever questions I can. I just wanted to give you this quick little visual on how this works and how it can possibly help you. If you like it, give me a thumbs up, give me a rating through the Blender Market system. I would appreciate that greatly, and I hope you have a good use for this, and I hope that it does what it needs to for you. Thanks so much.